The Lunaverse by Rainbow Double Dash. Magic Tutor by Rainbow Double Dash. Season 2, Episode 3. Short Chapter. Chapter 3, Magic Tutor. Interlude. Some months ago. As holding cells went, it wasn't all that unpleasant for Twilight. It wasn't very large, of course, but there was enough room to stretch out she wanted. Fried cut was only a little uncomfortable, given it was summer and the thinness of the blanket was actually welcome. The black and white beads bright prison shirt she wore was surprisingly cozy. She even had a window, though it was barred, and only looked out to the constabulary's courtyard anyway. Food was terrible, but Twilight didn't even worse. And after the first day, when it became clear to all police officers present that Twilight was being as cooperative as she could possibly be, were actually rather polite, without even giving her a few magazines to read. Of course, it was still a cell. The horn ring that suppressed her magic wasn't coming off for any reason. So Twilight had needed to remember how to use her hose and mouth, rather than telekinesis to pick things up and move things. Something she hadn't really done since she was a foal. That made meals rather interesting, as well as turning pages on a book. But she had relearned quickly enough. Too quickly, actually. She hoped it would take longer, in order to distract her from what the police sergeant told her this morning. Police had telegraphed to Caroline that a pony claiming to be Twilight Sparkle had been arrested. The Central Police Bureau of Caroline had sent a courier with Twilight's files and a picture of her. All was confirmed that she was, in fact, who she claimed to be. Having done that, they were sending officers to escort her back to Caroline for trial. They also let Twilight's mother, father, and brother know where she was. They were on her way now to see her. They would see. Warning, a nerve pony approached her. With a cell with keys. Their police officer had manacles. Twilight stood wordlessly, holding out her hose competently as the warden opened her cell. The officer put manacles on front hooves. "Your family's here," he said. Twilight nodded, having guessed as much. She followed him, head downcast. All could she imagine was the disappointment she see. She was a member of the House Starlight, as opposed to be the most upstanding noble family in all of Equestria. The Viceroys of Latico, its largest province. She'd been a perfect daughter, always minding her manners. Sure, she annoyed Shiny sometimes, but that's what little sisters did. She could remember how proud her father and mother had been when she had made it to Luna's Magic Academy, when she aced her first year, when she had taken additional subjects in her second, third year subjects, when she had simply been skipped to the final year, when she graduated with a perfect grade point average, when Luna herself had been there to present her with her diploma, and name her as the highest, brightest mind of her generation. Twilight gasped a little quietly. They would be so disappointed, so angry, and he had every right. Every right. As he walked through the constabulary to the area where she go to be her family, she could already hear their scorn. She deserved it, for making them worry, for disappointing them, for ruining her life and their reps. The viceroy of Latico had a daughter who was a criminal. The captain of the Royal Caroline Guard had a little sister who nearly destroyed a town. They still love her, but they never forgive her. Twilight was led to a pair of double doors, was opened inwards into a broad room of tables, with a catwalk overhead for guards, though only one was on duty. Ponywazo was hardly known for his criminal element. There were also a pair of double doors on the other end of the room, leading out to the public part of the police station. The police pony escorting Twilight stopped just inside the door as well. Twilight visited a moment, before taking a few steps forward. She supposed that she could simply find a table and wait for the inevitable. She hadn't gone very far at all, however, when the opposite double doors opened. 3 unicorns came in. Twilight locked eyes with them. Nightlight, her father. Twilight Velvet, her mother. Shining Armor, her brother. For eternity, they just stared at each other. And suddenly the 3 unicorns were moving, galloping across the room at full speed. Shining and her farmer were fast, but her mother approached them both. Was on Twilight in an instant, almost knocking the younger unicorn over as her forelegs wrapped tightly around Twilight in the fiercest hug she ever seen. "Oh, my little filly!" Her mother gasped, squeezing even tighter somehow. "Twilight, you're all right. Thank goodness you're okay." Twilight blinked. "Mom!" She tried. Her mother released her, only for Shiny to pounce on her neck, hugging her, giving her a brotherly nuzzle. He wasn't in his guard uniform, but he was still built like one, much stronger than it was typical for unicorns. It was certainly certain that a few of her bones would crack before too long if he kept to hug up. Then her father. He had been sifting from one hoof to the next anxiously. Finally, the weight was too much. It pushed Shining aside. Shining didn't begrudge him, as her father grasped Twilight, holding her close, putting a hoof on her head and running it through her mane. He was crying. They all were, and he weren't doing anything to hide it. I thought I would never see you, Twilight. Her father gasped. I thought I'd never see you again. He pulled back from her for a long while, looking her in the eye. It was on her shoulder. Her mother was as well, running a hoof over her neck and withers. Shining was holding on one of her front hooves in both her own, heedless of the manacles. So they were worried, they broke contact with her for a second as he disappeared. She looked to her family. You're not mad? She asked. Her mother let out a slight laugh at her tears. Tried. I'm furious at what you did. Well, you put me and your father and your brother through, she said. She reached up a hoof and brushed an arrow strand of Twilight's mane from her eyes. But that doesn't matter now. You're safe, her father said. You're safe now, and that's what's important. Twilight looked between the three of them again. After a moment, she felt something inside her break. But it was something that needed to break. It lasted only a moment more, for she felt the tears in her eyes swell up. Nothing was going to stop them. She leaned forward, into her mother and father as they embraced her again. She struggled with her manacles after a few moments. They prevented her from hugging them. She sat on nuzzles instead, her tears disappearing into their manes and coats being placed in no time. I'm so sorry. So sorry, she cried. I don't know what I was thinking. I shouldn't have run. Shouldn't have. Sorry. Twilight didn't know how long she stood there, crying to her mother and father's coats. She didn't care. Shining Armor was there beside her, one hoof over her withers, rubbing her back as she let all the pain and misery and regret of the past few months come pouring out. Well, we'll work and try and make things as good as possible, Father said at length. Twilight's tears finally began to subside. He forced a smile. We'll hire the best team of lawyers in Equestria. We get public support. Princess Luna herself said. Twilight shook her head. No, Twilight said, waving a hoof. Hopefully, essentially, thanks to the manacles. Dad, I'm going to plead guilty to my charges. To everything. I don't need lawyers. Mother's so far her neck tense. Twilight, she said, you have some serious charges against you. Twilight shook her head. And I'm guilty. Completely guilty. You shouldn't waste money. Even if you plead guilty, there's deals to be worked out, her father said. Plea bargains to reduce charges or... Well, you shouldn't really plead guilty. It should be nolo contendere. Lawyers are better at this sort of thing. No, Twilight said firmly, your father's in the air eyes. No, I'm not running anymore. Not hiding anymore. Not from anything. I'm admitting to what I did. I broke into restricted sections of libraries. I taught myself forbidden magic. I used it to bring a dangerous creature into a town. Then I ran. I'm guilty. I'm going to accept the consequences. I'm going to pay my debt to society, however long it takes. Father looked her over, staring at her, mouth hanging open a little. After a moment, he looked down, closing his eyes. I see, he said. I don't know if that makes me proud of you, or if that seems foolish. Both, I think. Twilight chuckled humorously. Leslie, her father again, then her mother, then her brother. Mother had fresh tears in her eyes and hugged Twilight closely. Let's, she said, as she guided Twilight over the table, sitting down at it. Father and brother followed. Let's use this time while we can. Catch up. Twilight nodded. Okay. She said, so anything interesting in the past few months? Family events? Neither were silent for a moment before her father let out a laugh. A real one that startled Twilight. Her father grinned slightly, glancing at saying, Well, he said, your brother may have a mare friend, Cavilla. If that letter he was trying to hide meant anything. Shining Armor did something he didn't do too often. He blushed. Dad! He groaned, glancing around nervously. Twilight couldn't stop herself from giggling. Couldn't forget what lay ahead, what she had done. But she could push it aside for a moment, focus on her family. Really? She asked. Any pony I heard of?